Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to our webcast here today, which is brought to you by Google and the Google Apps for Government team. In our spotlight today is the city of North Las Vegas and their move to Google Apps. They went to Google, going Google. That's a term you're going to hear us share a couple times throughout the presentation. My name is James Hilliard. Really happy to be on board with all of you on this presentation. Obviously, we've got some folks here joining this team from the city of North Las Vegas. I'm up in the San Francisco Bay Area. A couple of our other panelists are there as well. I'd love to know Anita and Bruce, as well as Daryl and Devin and others. Where are you calling from and joining us here today? You can use the Q&A module. That's how you can go ahead and type that in and share with us, and we'll see where folks are coming from. But glad to see so many of you have joined us for this presentation. And we really do want to highlight it's basically a living, breathing case study that we have for all of you here today. Randy and Daryl are out there in Wolf Forth, Texas, so glad to have you guys on board. Pretty hot down there these days. Ralph out in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Ralph. Glad to have you on board here today. So the living, breathing case study, that is going to be myself and Adam Cohen, the infrastructure team lead for the city of North Las Vegas. He and I engaged in conversation. We'll probably be doing that for about 20, 25 minutes or so of our presentation. But before we dive into that aspect, we do have two other gentlemen on board with us. Michael Higbee is here, the Senior Business Development Manager with Google Apps Premier Enterprise Partner SADA Systems. And we're going to hear a little bit about what SADA Systems does to help customers go Google. And they were a very important part of this city of North Las Vegas story. So you'll hear a bit about that. But to kick things off, we have Jed Marcus on board from Google, Local Government Manager. We want to do a quick kind of overset, right? Make sure everyone is aware of Google Apps and what we're talking about in terms of a tool and a set of technologies. Well, share a couple of the benefits that many other governments have been experiencing. Again, then we'll hear from Michael over at SADA and then move into Adam and really this big story. Debbie is attending from Windsor, California, up in wine country. I hope you enjoy a glass later on tonight. Northport, Florida is represented by Brad. Fernando's out there in Sacramento. Bruce coming into us from the Southwest Arizona. So good to see all of you and the others that didn't share yet where you're at. You're more than welcome to. But I also want you to share questions, comments as you go through the presentation. If there's something you want to hear from any of our panelists, then by all means share that with us. Just use the Q&A module. That's going to be the best way for us to interact with this WebEx today. And we'll queue some of those things up and share in due turn. So with that, Jed, let's go ahead and get this rolling here. I want to turn things over to you for a couple minutes and do that level set on what Google Apps is and what it does for folks.
Thank you very much there, James, for the introduction. Again, here, this is Jed Marcus, directly from Google. I'm the local government manager here, and I'm actually based up here in the Bay Area. So why don't we just jump into this to get everyone on the same page as to what actually Google Apps for Government is. Start with that into a little bit onto Google Enterprise. So Google Enterprise, what we do is we take all of the products that Google's so famous for, search, mapping, apps, etc., and we take that, and we actually work with enterprises, commercial businesses, and government and education to actually help them to adopt these technologies. And I'm actually specific to the local government area, and of course we're going to be really centralizing what we're going to talk about today around the application side. And a couple things here you can see from the bullet points. This is really an area that Google is heavily invested in. You can see the R&D that we have pumped in there, as well as the number of people that we have focused on this enterprise area. And this is something within the few years that you can see more and more states going to Google Apps. You can see here that you've got today 44 states, whether they're states, cities, or counties, all using Google Apps, and 300-plus agencies. So that's a little bit of a level set onto what Google Enterprise is. Moving forward, I also want to discuss a little bit as to what the Google Apps for Government suite means. Many of you on the webinar today are familiar with Gmail. We have about 400 million users on a Gmail. So what you see today if you're a personal Gmail user and what you would see if you would integrate Google Apps for Government, it's the exact same interface. So this is something that people love. It's tried and true. You have Gmail, so it's really divided into the Google Apps for Government between the messaging, Gmail, Google Talk, Calendar, as well as the collaboration feature and then the security. With the collaboration end, we have Google Docs, Google Sites, Google Video, and then Google Vault, which is really the security aspect, as well as the e-discovery that we allow our customers to have. So again, this is the Google Apps for Government suite. Moving forward, on the next slide, you can see a little bit some of the underlying value that our customers have seen today. I want to give the most time, obviously, in today's presentation for Adam to be able to highlight some of these, but I think it is important to really look at some of these overall themes. First of all, today, as you can see, we're actually presenting here we're actually using Google Docs, so this isn't vaporware here. This is something that we are using every day here at Google. And all you need is a browser and an internet connection. Whatever browser that you choose to use is fine for us, right? And the greatest thing is, this is a deployment to where once you get deployed and do the migration to Google Apps, this will be your last migration that you will have to do. There's no more needed because we're going to do all the innovation for you as far as more innovation on the product and also no need for software patches, etc. Security and reliability. I have another slide here. We're going to discuss a little bit as to what Google Apps for Government, how that differentiates from the other Google apps. But actually, if you could go back there, please. Thanks. So the reliability side is we get a 3 nines SLA onto that, so it's guaranteed within the contract. And then we're looking at a couple of overall themes is collaboration is so important, and we provide that within our product. And we have a very simple and affordable licensing as well. And then obviously you're going to need to be able to take these applications wherever you go, whether it's on your PC, your Mac, whether you're Android, iPhone, iPad, etc. So now we're going to go into a little bit as to what differentiates Google Apps for Government on the next slide. So a couple big things here is that Google Apps for Government is actually segregated from our consumer customers and also from our commercial customers. So these are data centers that are just for federal, state, and local government customers. And within this these segregated cages, actually the data is encrypted at rest as well. And the other thing is that we have actually achieved a FISMA certification. And with this certification, we can operate, and we have been audited by a third party that actually goes through a set of 262 security procedures and controls where we've been audited and where we actually meet those requirements. So next slide, please. This is a snapshot of some of the customers that have moved to Google within the last 12 months. As you can see, we have several states to move forward. We have cities of all sizes and counties. So this is just really a snapshot. Obviously, City of North Las Vegas we're going to highlight here, but this is the benefits of moving to Google is something for large customers, small customers, and everyone in between. So moving forward, we're going to also discuss a little bit as to the collaboration side, because everyone, there's a lot of familiarity within the Gmail side, but what does Google Docs do? Well, as you can see from the screenshot, it enables seamless collaboration where users can actually see and to make edits in real time. So you're not going to have to send attachments back and forth, and you're going to actually see what people are doing. And if you look to the next slide, you can also see how within that you can easily have sharing settings where you can have the access control to have users, whether they're an owner or someone who can edit a document or someone who can view a document. And it's important that this can be something for inside and outside of your agency. So that's something very important that customers have come to us and asked for. And another screenshot here in the next slide is within the Gmail interface, you're going to have the easy access to Google's chatting, to Google video conference as well, which you can do with whoever you're needing to collaborate. So really the key takeaway here is that we want to make the technology very easy to use so it can be adopted by your organization. So just another, if we can move to the next slide. Obviously this, what's very important to us is you can take this wherever you need to go. So right out of the box, you're able to work within, whatever mobile device that you are using. And then also, if you look at the next slide, you can look at, it also works within whatever if you're working with an iPad, we know that you need to have that functionality, and this can all be done within our suite. Now, just to wrap up a little bit of our intro before we move on to the next point in our program here, we're going to look at a slide on, as you can see, if you can move to the next slide, the last key benefits here. So first of all, we want to have to be able to provide the modern and reliable tools, and when you want to make it easy for whether it's a city, a county, or state to actually get that tool set for your users. The other thing is just value. We want to make this so it's going to be able to give the best value for your taxpayers. And then also, if you folks are on IT, a part of the IT department here today, we want to give time back to you to work on other projects that might be more important than having to run your own email system. And we believe that with that you can work on projects that are going to provide greater benefit for your organization. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a level set as to what Google Apps for Government is. And why don't we keep going here in the program, and I'll hand it back to you, James.
Hey, perfect, Jed. Appreciate it. Jed's going to hang on board. He's going to be here the entire event and available for questions towards the end of the presentation. So if there are questions you have specifically that you want to direct towards someone at Google, that's why we signed Jed up for today's event. So he's going to hang on board. If you're just coming on with us, that was Jed Marcus from Google, local government manager. Quick level set on Google Apps for Government, what it is, benefits it can provide to folks out there and some of the other governments that have already gone Google. Another important player in our story today is Michael Higbee, the Senior Business Development Manager with SADA Systems, which is a Google Apps premier enterprise partner. They were also important in moving the city of North Las Vegas forward in their efforts to go Google. So we want to talk a little bit here, a couple moments, of what they do there at SADA and some of the benefits that they bring to the table, right, to help governments move forward. And then we'll spend the majority of the rest of the time in our story with Adam Cohen from the city of North Las Vegas. So, Michael, with that, sir, welcome again, and let me turn things over to you for a couple moments.
Thank you very much, James, and good afternoon, everybody, from the San Fernando Valley here in the city of Los Angeles, on the other side of the state from Jed and James. Want to welcome you here and talk a little bit about who SADA Systems is and what we do. So, Jed has been talking about all of the great benefits that Google Apps brings to an end user, such as yourselves. So let's go ahead and push the button and get to the cloud right now. So I want to talk real quickly about a few of the reasons why our customers deploy in the government space. Some pictures here, some folks that have all gone Google, various agencies across the country. But we're really looking at a series of benefits that come from a Google Apps deployment. You can see it there. It's everything from saving money to increasing user productivity, increasing the engagement with your stakeholders, improving public safety, and even improving logistics across your entire operation. So having brought that value to the table, let's talk about who we are here at SADA. So SADA has been in business since the year 2000. We are a Google Apps premier enterprise partner and reseller. That means that we provide the Google Apps solution directly to the client, in addition to handling all of the deployment, change management, project management pieces of it. As I mentioned, we are based here in Los Angeles, however, with offices across the country, as well as in the APAC region. We've done about over 400 different Google Apps related projects in the 5 years that we've been a Google Apps reseller, which, by the way, we became part of the Google Apps program at launch. There were 10 companies included in that. SADA was one of them. About over 4 million mailboxes to date migrated from other platforms to Google Apps, and really a good deep bench of expertise here with the most certified Google specialists on the deployment side, on the training side, on the sales side, And in addition, we happen to be one of the few Google Apps Enterprise partners that's both a GSA contract holder. So if that's one of the vehicles that you can purchase off of, we can work with you there. And we happen to be a Microsoft partner, so we know where you guys are coming from for those of you who are in that space, and we can take you to Google. Overall, and you will hear one of them this afternoon from the City of North Las Vegas, we have the most published success stories from our customers. So by the way, also just sort of a past sampling of previous organizations that have worked with SADA to go Google, not only in the government space, but for your reference in education and in enterprise. Well, pretty good collection of nameplates there. So lots of experience behind us. So I want to talk a little bit about how do you do this? You've decided to go Google. How do we make it happen? Got an answer for you. Call us. We definitely can do it. We've got the expertise and the ability and the track record behind it. Proven track record of successful government deployment. You're going to hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes from the City of North Las Vegas. So now I want to talk about what does it take. Obviously, the technical aspect is probably the most obvious and a major part of a deployment. But in any scenario where you're looking to move over to another platform, it's really more about the change management side of it. So you see, really, only 40% of it, of the task, is related to technical issues, things like data migration, synchronizing identity servers, any other kind of configuration between email and other systems. We do all that, but the big part of it is the people. Anytime you make a change to an organization like this, you're going to have all different types of reactions, from glee to trauma. And by doing these projects over the years, we've really learned the method and the approach to make that happen. So let me talk a little bit about our approach. In the past, whenever you've changed out a system and done a deployment within your environment, you may get an army of consultants and engineers and folks, and it's really not necessary. We work in small, agile, expert teams, as Adam will describe in a few moments, really hand in hand with the folks within the organization, along with, of course, the support of the Google engineers and product people, to really come in and focus specifically on the task at hand, get the job done, get the people up to speed, and go from there. And the key to that is change management, training, and expert project management. So when we talk about training and change management, we're not just talking solely about product training. How do you send an email? How do I open up a doc? It's really more about how does this solution that you're now providing me with fit in with the workflow of the organization? How can I do tasks better? How can I serve my end customers better? Along with that, we have a very strong and detailed expertise in project management so that it goes smoothly and quickly and extremely cost-effective. And so then what happens when we do all of this? Well, we think the end result is a happy customer. And in this instance here, you can see a quote from Alan Noyola, who works with Adam at the City of North Las Vegas. They felt that their process went very smooth, and really with even just a few weeks after having gone live, they got tremendous positive feedback from their stakeholders, and they have quickly discovered that they have improved their overall network for email and collaboration, and just in terms of workflow and productivity within the organization. So we are really excited to hear from Adam in a moment. So before we do, I just want to leave you with a couple of questions, and then we'll be here for the question and answer part of the session. But if the cloud was the solution to make you productive, what if we could help you deploy faster, cheaper, and better? Would we be able to help you? Well, let's find out in a little bit. You can contact us after the webinar is over, and we look forward to being of service to you.
Good stuff, Michael. Appreciate it. And again, we'll make sure we'll be sharing a bunch of URLs and follow-up info as we move on and get towards the end of the presentation. But what we want to do right now is really shift gears and get back into, probably 20, 25 minutes or so of just a conversation. And so there's not much that we're going to be doing on the screen here. We really just want you to sit back, listen to the conversation. What you can do on your screen, and Angie, I'm talking to you, as well as Brad and Rick and everyone else has joined us. If you have questions, make sure you ask those, and I'll be looking at that from time to time, trying to incorporate them into the questions that I have myself for Adam and talk about this story. And if you have other questions for Michael and for Jed as well from Google, absolutely get those in, and we'll address as many as we can through the presentation here today. This deployment, it's very fresh in Adam Cohen's mind. This is very young of their kind of go live time. So it's not like he's going to have to think back very far to answer any of the questions, feelings, ideas that his team was going through. So again, great opportunity to get in and get some ideas from our living, breathing case study here. Again, Adam is the infrastructure team lead, network supervisor type of role here for the city of North Las Vegas. And what I want to do is kind of level set a few things about what the city is about. Right now, the city of North Las Vegas, very different from the city of Las Vegas that we all see in the commercials. They are the third largest city now in Nevada, organized back in 1946. During the big growth time, North Las Vegas grew tremendously. But as we all know, the bust hit and the recession hit, and that had a major impact on the city. Before we get to the technical aspects of things, Adam, and the impact it had, just what did it do to the community? What has the community gone through in the last several years?
It's been really rough. There's been a great amount of unemployment. We've been number one on the foreclosure list nationally for some time, although we aren't anymore, thank goodness. And it's just been kind of a depressed area because of the economy.
Within your group and team, I'm assuming that you had a lot of employees that lived in the local vicinity. What impact did it have there in terms of home loss, job loss, that type of stuff on a personal level?
It was really tough. We had about 60 IT positions at one time. And the city lost hundreds of positions due to the decreased revenue coming in. And so we actually slashed our positions in IT from 60 down to about 18 positions now.
All right, so you're the prime example of what has become a line, but it's a reality of doing more with a whole lot less, in your case, losing upwards of 40 employees.
That's correct. And actually, before the last major round of layoffs, I was heading up the software development at the city. And since the layoffs happened to IT about a year ago, I ended up taking over the network function, which is one supervisor, as well as technical support, and still keeping my software development that I'm in charge of.
All right, so you've got three hats going on there right now.
Yep.
All right. Assuming that there were also cuts to budgets, obviously you had budget cuts that dropped employees. What about budgets for renewing equipment, upgrading your infrastructure? What happened there? Frozen, cut? Give us that insight.
It was completely cut. We had every 5 years or 3 to 5 years, you're supposed to replace servers and storage, and it costs quite a bit. And basically, we had no budget for several years now for refreshing equipment, so everything was kind of falling apart.
Let's dive deeper there. What was falling apart? Are we talking AC units in the server rooms? Are we talking servers themselves? I mean, what was that major impact?
It was a whole combination. Besides losing staff funding for equipment, we had hard drives failing constantly. We had, preparedness so that if one hard drive fails, another one fails. Well, it's kind of difficult when you have 2 or 3 hard drives fail, and it brings down a whole SAN that the email system's running on top of. And we didn't have any staff to maintain the software, so over time, nobody's monitoring it for problems, or they're monitoring it much less. And basically, it's snowballing. The problems are snowballing for us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about email here. What type of system were you on? We know where you're at now, but where were you? What did you have? How old was it? What was going on?
We had a Novell GroupWise email system, which was a quality system, but it consisted of 12 different servers, and basically the system was dying. As part of the cuts, we lost our only email administrator, and some of those servers were over 7 years old. And basically every weekend or every couple weekends, the system was coming down, and management and employees were quite upset, and there were a lot of extra hours put in to try to scotch tape the system together to keep it going.
Was that when you or other colleagues started thinking, we got to do something different, or were you just in triage mode and you really had to wait for a major catastrophe to happen before you could think about making some change?
Well, we did have a major catastrophe in 2010. Actually, our GroupWise system was down for 4 days, and that's pretty much our business week, Monday to Thursday. So at that time, I wasn't over the infrastructure, but I clearly recall the director of IT was sitting in the email administrator's cubicle for 4 days straight, and it was a pretty tough time. As soon as I took over the network function, I realized that this was critical lifeblood to the city for public safety, for communication, for business, and it was one of the first things that I set out to address.
And was this system the system that was the communication between city employees and your constituents, residents, as well as just obviously internal communications, email back and forth between city departments and everybody? I mean, this was the whole communication channel.
Right. I mean, we have a CRM system, but it sent notifications via email. And then, of course, just dealing with businesses and the public, they had email addresses, and it was very risky having a system that was teetering on the edge.
And you said your previous colleague that he was there 4 days straight. Can I assume 4 nights straight as well?
Yep, yeah. You can assume that, and every weekend since then that was a 4-day outage, but we had multiple outages, dozens of outages, and it was a black eye to IT, and it caused business degradation every time the system went down.
You said that you then took over the networking. You knew it was something that needed to be addressed. Were you also getting big time heat from above or another department saying, "Hey, you got to get on this for us, Adam"?
Definitely, the IT had a really bad reputation, and there was kind of scowling and tremendous amount of frustration and some anger towards the IT department.
I can imagine.
And I thought it was acceptable. Email is so critical since for the last 20, 30 years now.
Absolutely. Was your first thought, we just got to fix GroupWise, or did you think it's time for a change?
I felt it was time for a change. The challenge we had is we didn't have any budget. So if we wanted to go with Outlook or even repair GroupWise, there just wasn't money to purchase those 12 servers or licensing or whatever would be involved with it. So we had to really think outside the box. We had a very limited budget, mostly for just software licenses for GroupWise, and without any bodies or money for hardware. And we had to think of how can we address this problem.
The exploration was done, you fill in the blank, by you and 3 others, and tell us, how long it took to start sourcing some new options, and ultimately, how long it took you to get Google Apps on your radar.
It was done mostly by me. My predecessors had been talking about Google or other cloud solutions for a couple of years, but they never made any traction on it. So, this is one of the things that was keeping me up at night, and I started looking out there and seeing what solutions could a company host this for us, what products were in the cloud, what products were trustworthy. for us. So I started looking around, and I noticed basically the other big vendor in this area is Microsoft, and their pricing at that time was substantially more expensive, and they didn't have the FISMA certification that Google Apps for Government has.
When you were looking and you finally came to a thought that, hey, I want to now surface this as an idea, when you did that, the idea to go Google was applauded around the table, and everyone thought, hey, best idea you've had, Adam, or not?
Mostly not. People, especially in government, where people are fortunate to continue to keep their jobs in this downturn in the economy, don't like change. They don't like systems change. They get used to a system. They learn it. They want to keep it. And then people are concerned you're putting our data where in the cloud, and can we get the information back, and security, and all sorts of arguments. So I did engage Jed Marcus and Michael Higbee, and started to ask him the tough questions.
How did you go back then to the naysayers? What was it? Was it feature things like, well, hey, look, they are FISMA compliant, or hey, they've got a 99.9% SLA? Was it those things that helped convince people? Was it familiarity with, hey, guys, it's just like using Gmail at home? What was it that Jed and Michael were able to share with you that you in turn could share and kind of turn some favor in your direction?
Well, I developed a presentation with all the research I could gather from Michael and Jed about the capabilities, about the SLA, the compliance, and whatnot. And I met with the directors, the chief of police, the city manager, all those people with Al Noyola sponsoring me to do this. And they all asked hard questions. And I think what really sold a lot of them over is that I communicated those questions with Michael and with Jed and the team over there, and they came back to me, and not every answer was perfect, but being able to come to a solution for the questions and communicating it back to the executives really helped out. And then I was frank with them that the group-wide system, it was going to die, and without funding, which there was no funding, it was just a matter of time.
Let's talk money. People always like to talk money in terms of looking at new projects, and you did your research and you came up with a number in terms of some savings that you could provide. One, share that number, and then how did that go over with folks within the city of North Las Vegas in terms of hearing about those savings?
Sure. Well, I did some analysis, worked on a spreadsheet, and over 5 years, I showed that just by not replacing the servers and by not hiring back a full-time email administrator, the city would save $1.2 million. And, that definitely raised some eyebrows and some interest in it. And I actually believe we're going to actually have a much higher return, but I'll talk about that later, perhaps as you asked me about Google Docs and collaboration and other things that we're involved with.
I am making a note right now to come back to that. And again, it was $1.2 million you thought could save over 5 years. You're only a few months into this. We wrapped things up deployment-wise. It was kind of late spring, correct?
Yeah, we really went live at the beginning of May. And, in my analysis, I didn't analyze what is the cost of having email not working. And if we factored that in there, it'd be quite a bit more. And since we went live, because of other failures we've had that I am focusing on trying to fix storage and various other things, we would have had about 3 or 4 outages of group-wise since we went live with Gmail.
And more sleepless nights. Hey, Adam Cohen is with us from the city of North Las Vegas. We're talking about their story and travels of going Google. If you have any questions for Adam that you would like me to ask of him, feel free to share with us. Just over halfway through our presentation here today, and our conversation is really what this is. So we're going to continue on here. We also do have Jed Marcus from Google standing in the wings, as is Michael Bigby from SADA Systems. And so we'll come back back and address questions to those guys as well. So make sure you stay on touch with us. And it's Michael Higbee. I think I said Bigby. It is Higbee with us. So appreciate Michael and Jed standing in the wings there, and they'll come back for some questions a bit later on. Okay, so we've gone through what the background was, what was going on in the city of North Las Vegas. GroupWise was failing. You said it. It was going to die. Needed to make a change. You were looking at, hey, what are some cloud solutions, because you knew that was going to be a cheaper route for you. You come to a decision. You say, hey, I want to go Google, and that's what we're looking at. Not your first rodeo, not your first upgrade of any type of system. Did you anticipate you were going to do it alone and do it on yourself? Did you think you'd go out and get a partner, someone like a SADA Systems? What was your mindset at the beginning there?
I was definitely looking for a partner. Losing 2/3 of our IT staff, there just wasn't enough people to process this. Plus, I was looking for an expert, an organization that could help lay out a project plan and the steps that were necessary, and had experience and could work with us step by step to go through this process. Now, with that said, I definitely want to state that I did develop a team after we were able to get the minds and hearts to go with Google Apps. And I had about 8 people within the IT department, about half the IT department on the team. And I want to give them credit before I forget that they did an excellent job at making this happen, and everybody pulled together on that.
Let's talk about now then kind of the move forward. You did a pilot project, I'm assuming. First, let me ask, did you do a pilot project?
Yes, we did a pilot because, just seeing demos and looking at literature is one thing, but actually using the software is another thing. So we invited about 40 people within the city, some of the more powerful users, some of the more technical users, and we had a successful pilot that ran for about 5 weeks.
SADA involved in that? Google heavily involved in that? You did that on your own? What was that?
SADA provided the pilot, and they flew out here, and they provided a day of training from a professional trainer to get us more comfortable with using it.
First reaction from the pilot group. They had been on GroupWise for so long. They get over to Google Apps, and in the first day, they're doing what? They're saying what?
I'd say at least, maybe a quarter of the people were actually quite excited, happy about it, because like Jed was saying, there's 400 million Gmail accounts out there, so a lot of people at the city had personal Gmail accounts already. Maybe half the people were okay with it, a little concerned, and then maybe about 10% of the people were like, oh my gosh, this has changed. How do I do this in there? And having major concerns.
How long did the pilot go on?
It went on for about 5 weeks, and during that time we tried to have staff use Gmail in lieu of GroupWise as much as possible.
Can you think of the biggest benefit that the pilot group was able to report back to you, and or also the biggest benefit that you as the IT group were starting to see as a result of the pilot?
Basically that it was a full functional email system. No matter whatever email system we went to, it had to have a level of sophistication, and that was, it passed our litmus test for being a sufficient email system. And people, as soon as they're like, okay, we're replacing GroupWise with this, but then I had other people, well, what can sites do? What can docs do? And they started to get really excited about the ideas of making their jobs more efficient and improving productivity through collaboration and Google Docs.
Take us through the deployment. Do it in this way, if you could, Adam. Maybe a bit of a time frame. Again, who was involved? Maybe how many people you dedicated? How many came from your partners that were dedicated to really get ready and work through then the deployment?
Well, we went through. We got the contract approved in January, and we engaged SADA Systems directly. We acquired their professional services for the migration, the conversion, training, helping us get along with it. In February, we worked closely with a small team of experts from SADA who worked out the kinks that would be needed to do the conversion and do the basic setup. And then in March and April, we actually did the whole migration and the conversion and the implementation. We initially expected it to go towards the middle or end of May, but it was just we were able to shorten the project to 2 months. And the way we rolled it out is we rolled it out first adopters, so those were the IT folks, and then we rolled it out to about 10% of the city, some of the people who'd really kick the wheels and have the most questions and issues, and then the third group would be the rest of the city. So that second group, that really helped us prepare for the remaining group to make things smoother for the final phase that we had. Now we're at the time I think we had about 1,300 employees, and that's a lot of employees to train, especially since we're 24/7 with police, fire, you name it. So on the IT team, we had about 8 people involved with it. I was the project manager. And then we had system network people and people involved in leading the training that all did an awesome job and came together awesomely. And in the departments, we were able to get about 16 people to be train the trainer type of folks. And they pulled together and they worked brave shifts and whatever to get everybody trained. And that and communication were really key to making this successful for us.
So were these kind of train the trainer folks? Is this someone, say, might have been in the police department, someone else might have been in, let's say HR or something within the city, that one individual would learn it, become, somewhat skilled, and then start sharing that information with their individual teams?
That's correct. And basically what we did is we acquired training from SADA, who were instrumental in this, and we had multiple courses from SADA for the trainers. So there'd be police trainers and municipal court and you name it. And then those people would then train their staff. Most of these people did not have trainer in their title, but a key part of this whole process is that the application was very user friendly, and they took to it pretty well, and they were able to train it pretty easily.
I've talked to some other groups that have gone Google, and they've done a big bang approach. All at once is boom. That's what their decision was. You went phased. Why that choice?
The first phase was mostly for IT to make sure, hey, we're suggesting this thing. We're in a sense going to dog food it. We're going to live through this experience. Whatever we're putting on the employees, we have to make sure we could work it out, get the major technical hurdles resolved. And the second group were really a lot of the naysayers and people who had issues, so that it's a lot easier to focus on 100 or 200 people that have problems and work those out than to try to work out the problems for 1,300 people all at one time. And that second phase was also our trainers, so that gave them a lot more exposure to be able to have the time to learn the system, to be able to train the rest of the staff in the final deployment. I think the strategy worked out really well for us.
Let's do this, and sorry for the pun. You're in government. All of our attendees are in government, but let me have you do a State of the Union. How things are now. You wrapped up, you said, I think early May was final go live, kind of global go live for everybody. Few months into it, how do you stand? How do you feel this project ranks? How do other departments, city leaders feel that this project has gone?
This project definitely went exceptionally well, and it went off without a hitch, and it actually ran shorter than the time we initially allocated for it. After the first month after going live, there was easily a few weeks of work involved with answering questions and fixing conversion issues and whatnot. But then gradually, everybody gave us kudos as they started to get used to it. But then administering email kind of went away. It kind of became invisible. It just became a part of the organization. I was working with the city manager staff yesterday, and they just told me, hey, we had some apprehensions initially, but we really love it, and I've gotten kudos and thanks, especially as people learned more aspects of the system than just the email component. So it's definitely been a win for me, and as part of that, I think we've been able to bring back some faith in the IT organization, and we were given additional funds for this fiscal year to be able to shore up some of our other systems. So I think it was a home run for us.
Hey, good to hear, and congratulations on that. Last bullet point that's on our very fabulous one-slide deck that we've been doing here, and I hope folks have appreciated that. I really did when we wanted to really just share a story, not have to worry about you all looking at a bunch of slides and charts here. So that's why we structured this as a conversation. But we do have a bullet point that says unique scenarios. Talk to everyone else here, the top one or two things that you think make the city of North Las Vegas a little unique in terms of your network, your environment, and what you have been able to kind of accomplish there by this move of going Google.
Well, there were some constraints, and I think any government that has public safety concerns, there worries about CGIS information. So we had to address that as part of this. And some of the things that we did to keep things sensitive is that, first of all, we have a policy you can't put CGIS information in email, so that helped us out quite a bit. And then if people really do need to put classified or critical information in email, then there is an alternative system, which is law enforcement online, that they can use for those type of transmissions. And then staying with the confidentiality aspect, we also made some changes where in the past people might email scanned documents that have sensitive information in them. And we changed our practices in the police department especially so that they just scan to a file on a network share as opposed to emailing. So that was one thing. Another thing is that there were just some things that a couple of things that the features aren't quite there yet, or you need to buy a couple small add-ons for Gmail, and we found different ways to address those issues. One of them, we found a product that's free, where some departments, especially HR, they need to schedule emails to go off at a certain time, and Gmail doesn't have that natively built in, so we found a product for them called Boomerang, which addresses that. Staying on the security aspect on their security thing, we were able to configure encryption from our HR systems and scanners so that when it goes from over SMTP from our applications to the email, it's encrypted all the way. And really the exciting thing to me is consumerization of IT is huge right now. Every organization is dealing with iPads and iPhones and whatnot, and if we had GroupWise, we wouldn't be able to really empower our employees to be mobile. And with the Gmail and the applications on these devices, whether it's Android or iOS, people just come to me and they're all excited and like, wow, I'm able to do all this stuff on my phone, or wow, I'm able to access email from anywhere around the world just by going to google.com. And it's stories like those that have that put a smile on my face because it helps validate that we went in the right direction and we've produced a good result.
Hey, well, good stuff, and I appreciate you sharing that story with us today here, Adam. I do want to open it up to some of the questions that we've seen come in from the audience. Folks, if you have additional questions, share with us. If we don't get to all of them, we'll forward them on to the teams behind the scenes. Let me do this. It's an appropriate question. It's a pricing question. So, Jed, I'm going to get you back on the line here. A couple folks, Chris was one of them, said, well, what is the pricing structure for Google Apps for Gov? So either what can you share or where can we direct people for that info, Jed?
Hey, yeah, that's a great question, and actually don't really need to share too much there because it's very simple. It's $50 per user per year. For everything within Google Apps for government. And then there is, depending on if you want the add-on, which City of North Las Vegas is using for archiving, and that is an additional cost just depending on what the retention period that you need. And happy to discuss that offline with you. But for the main package, Google Apps for Government is $50 per user per year.
All right. Hey, Debbie is in our audience here today. Maybe Adam will start with you, and maybe Michael, you can chime in afterwards. But Debbie was asking if you had any problems, Adam, converting documents like Excel and Word files into, say, Google Docs. Was that an issue? Did you come across anything there? Looks like Debbie's got some major files that she would hate to have to recreate. What can you share?
Well, for complicated spreadsheets and whatnot in Excel, I'd say that Google Apps isn't quite up to par with the Excel capability. But what it does let you do is it lets you upload Excel files, and then you can download and reference Excel files from there. It's a Google Drive capability. We mostly use Google Apps for communications, for working on projects and whatnot, but our accountants, especially the finance department, they still use Microsoft Excel for their number crunching.
Michael, you've seen a lot of deployments. Yeah, jump on in here. And what have you seen on the front?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So there's a couple things to that. It's a very good question. Certainly that's something we run across because we're talking about, real-world workflow and how do I do these things. So that's really one of the things that we would do in terms of deployment planning is first sit down and not so much look at it as a question of how do I convert this document, but what is it you're trying to accomplish? And maybe converting the document is the answer to that, but sometimes it might be doing things a little differently and maybe even easier. One of the things, too, that we found, and as Adam kind of alludes to, there's some benefits to Microsoft Excel, and some people may have various documents that make more sense to use with Excel. We usually find that in most cases the organization already owns Excel. So continue to use it for that group of people or for that particular document. But the upside is that you don't have to renew those licenses or buy new CALs or anything like that. And you get to take advantage of the great collaboration features that Google Docs has that Excel doesn't, including being able to pull real-time information into spreadsheets from other sources out there, whatever they may be, and of course the fact that work groups can collaborate on the same document in real time from any place, anywhere, anytime.
On the screen right now, some follow-up info. We're not done yet. We're going to take a couple more questions, but I want to make sure you all see here that you can get more information online at google.com/apps/gov. Want more information? Google sales at SADASystems.com, SADA Systems.com there. And also, we've recorded today's presentation. A couple of folks joined us a little bit late. No worries. We have recorded. You'll get a reminder email. It'll bring you back to the recording of the presentation. We'll be able to make the slides available to you as well if you're looking for those. Iris is looking for an answer here. Again, Adam, starting with you. Have you rolled out Google Apps to your entire city police department? And were there any special type of security concerns there with certain applications, maybe things tied again with the police and the Department of Justice? Anything there that you can shed any light on?
Yes, we did roll it out to our entire police department, and like I was discussing, our policy is not to put CJIS information in email, so that isn't allowed, and that's where we went through LEO, lawenforcement.gov, Law Enforcement Online, which does have a system which allows for communicating confidential information if it's needed online. So we do have that, and any confidential documents that need to be scanned, like I was stating before, instead of going through our email system, they're just directly scanned to our network drives.
Really do appreciate, Adam, the story here today that you were able to share with all of us and the insights. And again, folks, if you have additional questions that you want to submit to us, you can do so now. We're close to wrapping up, so if we don't get your question verbalized on this event, we'll forward these on the back end. Adam, if we send you a couple of questions via email, you think we can get around to answering some back if needed?
Sure, for $5 a question.
$5 a question. All right, I'll even pick up that charge, folks. So go ahead and continue to share with us as we're in the final moments of wrapping up. I do want to thank the teams that came together behind the scenes. Obviously, Adam and his team from the city of North Las Vegas, but also over at SADA Systems. And Michael, really appreciate you sharing some insights on what you do with some groups and answering some of the questions here today.
Well, thank you, James. It's our pleasure, and we certainly hope that this was informative and valuable for everybody who attended.
And again, a great email that we can get to is googlesales@sadasystems.com there, so that you can go ahead and follow up. Jed, obviously appreciate your time as well, representing the Google Apps for Government team out there. There was a question, Iris, just kind of following up here. Maybe, Jed, you have a quick stat next to you asking, stats on how many Gov agencies have taken up Google Apps. I think we kind of mentioned that early on in the Prezzo. Iris might not have been with us. But what are some of the numbers standing now, kind of middle of 2012?
Yeah, it's about 300 plus is the latest one I had, so it's probably more than that. But, yep, that's a good number to start with.
Okay, gotcha. Well, cool. Hey,
plus agencies, and also I think it is important to note as well that there's 4 million businesses on Google Apps as well.
And if you go on over, folks, to YouTube, you can definitely search for Google Apps for Gov. I think we have some resources up there. You'll see some, and we've done some other webcasts where we've talked to other governments and other just private enterprises that have gone Google as well. So definitely, if you want to hear different examples, I know there are a few out there talking about a big bang approach, right? Adam went through a phased approach. There's some out there. They talk about why they went big bang and why that worked for them. So you can check that out as well. So lots of resources. Again, a great resource, google.com/apps/gov. With that, that's going to bring us to the end of the presentation here today. I have thanked our teams behind the scene. Let me thank all of you. Really appreciate you taking an hour to join us here today so that you could tune on in and listen to the story from the city of North Las Vegas. Look for the reminder email. That will bring you back to the on-demand version of this event. And with that, we are going to sign things off. Again, my name is James Hilliard. Glad to have been the moderator for this event, and we do look forward to talking to you all down the road.